Take a good, hard look. What do you see? Do you see history? How about the future?
Much better though, Green. Just keeping it simple. Good work.
Do you see those who carved paths into the ice and those who followed? These are not the faces of female hockey players. They are those who have earned the right to simply be called hockey players.
Sprint! Sprint! D is on the goal line, F2 is right behind, F1 is right here.
This is their story.
You're trying to separate. Stay wide.
Make it a good one, Green. Make it a good one.
A story of the young girls and women who taught us all to see the game differently.
Go, Brent. Good.
Those who built legacies.
Here's Darwitz in. Score on the rebound.
And those who carry them on. This is a story about community, adversity, and triumph throughout the state of hockey.
All the way through the final line! An incredible play by Minnesota.
This is Homegrown. Nearly 14,000 girls and women are playing hockey in Minnesota today. That's more than any other state in the country. From youth, high school, college, and now pro. Minnesota is rich with both talent and opportunity. But such was not always the case.
Well, back in 1916, there's pictures and information in the Gopher yearbooks with women who were playing, and there were around 4 teams. They wore skirts. It was rather interesting, but there was hockey.
Some would say this was the very beginning. The early Gopher Club hockey teams disappeared during the Great Depression. But they were brought back to life in the 1970s, thanks to a hockey fanatic named Sue Ring.
I was going to the University of Minnesota, but I was spending 40 hours a week on hockey. I was into it like you cannot believe. Well, we weren't very good. I mean, I didn't think we were very good. I didn't even want to wear maroon and gold because I didn't want to embarrass the university. We were all in figure skates. There was a few people who had played before who were in hockey skates, but 90% of us were all in figure skates.
At the same time women's hockey returned to the U, girls' youth hockey teams were also forming throughout the state, including one special group in Wayzata, known as the Checkers.
Hockey, fast and exciting, an all-male domain, a macho man sport, right?
Let's go! Come on, pick them up!
Well, look and listen again.
We started out with a lot of people who didn't know how to skate very well, but we had an awesome coach, Dr. Bob May, who had coached the University of North Dakota men to a national championship in 1959, and his daughter was one of our best players.
Let's fire, Cindy! Come on, Laura! Let's go, Jan! Let's go, Jan!
I believe my dad was a visionary. He could see that we deserved the right to play. I remember when we first got together and we started to skate, and some of the girls came out, and instead of wearing shin pads, they were wearing magazines taped up underneath their pants.
It was soup to nuts with equipment, it really was. It was mostly, I'm gonna guess for a lot of people, whatever their brothers had lying around. Myself, for instance, I had skates that were my brother's. They were size 5.5, and to this day, my skate size, I have small feet, is 2.5.
I remember my dad had a stop and go drill. So we were all supposed to line up at one time, and he was gonna blow the whistle, then we were supposed to go as a group. And then he was supposed to blow the whistle a second time, and we were supposed to all stop as a group. Well, he blew the whistle the second time, and I believe probably 10 of the 12 girls fell down. And I think my dad was thinking, where are we going to go from here?
It didn't take Coach May long before he turned his ragtag group of skaters into one of the most successful girls' teams in the country.
As we got older, like when I went into junior high, high school, like the Checkers who became the Minnesota Checkers, we were pretty good.
Well, right now, down on the ice are two of the best hockey teams in the country. One, the defending national champs, the other, former national champions from Minnesota. But they're not the Gophers, they're the Minnesota Checkers, a women's hockey team.
In 1979, the now Minnesota Checkers became the first girls hockey team in the state to win a national championship. They would go on to win 4 consecutive titles and become one of the most accomplished teams of its era.
We won some national tournaments through A-House, which is now USA Hockey, and we had some good athletes. And so I would say actually the boys in school that knew about us and had seen us play, if they ever did, they respected that.
None of us playing ever looked at it as we want to be a pioneer. We just wanted to play. The feeling of winning a national tournament isn't so much about remembering who you beat or what the score was, it's what you did together. And any athlete will tell you when they have success, they're rarely going to remember the scores. They're rarely going to remember, who they played, how much they played. What they'll remember is how hard they worked and what they did as a unit and as a family.
I really saw what Dr. May did for us and for the sport. His goal was really to show as many people as possible, hey, girls can play hockey. They should have those opportunities to play hockey.
It was hard at the first. We probably weren't received that well. And there were some chauvinistic people, really, that didn't want girls to play. But they didn't really know. They thought hockey was strictly a man's game.
My dad was proud. He was just as proud of our team as he was the NCAA North Dakota Sioux team.
Throughout the 1980s, girls hockey continued to grow. Minnesota formed a Women's Hockey Association, and ambassadors like Sue Ring inched the game closer to becoming a sanctioned high school sport.
How would girls' high school hockey ever exist? And my answer was, the only way it's going to exist if there were so many parents complaining because their little girls who were all playing hockey didn't have a high school program to play in. So my thought was, I'm going to go out and start a bunch of little girls playing hockey all around the city.
If it only goes over one blue line, it's not icing. It's got to go over both blue lines and the end line to be icing.
Pass the puck and skate as fast as you can.
They interviewed Herb Brooks. And then they asked him about whether he thought there would ever be girls' high school hockey. And his comment, I don't remember the exact answer, but basically it was, never underestimate the power of a woman.
The interest level in women's hockey clinics, overwhelming.
Women's hockey is one of the fastest growing sports in America.
Take a look at the players here. Doesn't look like our usual hockey games. That's because we see women who are suited up for tonight's game.
A dozen Twin City high schools are now offering hockey programs for girls on the East Coast.
By 1994, 24 teams across the state suited up in the first ever season of high school girls hockey. And on November 14th, the puck was dropped in a monumental game.
First ever girls high school hockey game. And I believe it was South St. Paul over at Holy Angels, Richfield Arena. I remember Lynn Olson was coaching over at Holy Angels, and we were able to play in that inaugural game.
I was smiling from ear to ear. It was what we had tried so hard to do for, especially like my daughter who was a senior and wanted to participate on a high school team.
I remember shaking, having a lot of nerves, packing that school bus, and I'd played scrimmages, things like that, but this was the first time. And you walk in and you see every news truck from the state of Minnesota out in the parking lot getting ready to cover this game. We were nervous. We were really nervous. I don't think the nerves ended. And I think they kind of continued on for the entire first season because it was so big.
Some of those nerves were certainly warranted, because not everyone was excited to see the growth of girls hockey.
There were both men and women who said, well, you're going to take ice away from our boys' side of the program. We don't want that to happen.
Been spit on for, told we were terrible. And so like they honestly, like you're walking out and they call your name and I mean, we kind of sit there and you're like, did that happen?
We would go into arenas and we would be basically stopped sometimes from coming in saying, well, we're not going to allow girls into the program. I think that they thought we would be taking a fair amount of ice with our programs growing as they were.
It was hard to understand why going out and playing a sport has such a horrible reaction. And we paid our dues. I mean, we skated before school 2 or 3 times a week. You know, we don't want to step on other people. We don't want to take more out of the pie. You know, we don't want to say these teams can't play or we're more important. We never thought that. We just said, how can we do it? How can we make it work so that we can all play a sport that we're growing to love? Like, how can we do this? And it was my dad's idea. So, you know, let's not split up the pie. Let's just get another pie.
It became clear that in order to grow girls hockey, the state needed more ice. In 1995, a solution was on its way, known as the Mighty Ducks Bill.
Our state representatives, Bob Milbert, Jim Metzen, they passed a bill within the Minnesota legislature to create funding for new arenas, renovating arenas, and that would help everyone in the state because it would provide more ice time.
I offered an amendment to the Target Center bill. I know this doesn't make any sense. It's a basketball arena. I said, let's put a 50-cent surtax on the tickets to the Timberwolf games and use that 50 cents to start a fund to build more hockey rinks or build more ice arenas. And it passed. To my complete and utter amazement, it passed. We thought that we needed to build at least 60 new sheets of ice throughout the state to provide enough ice time so the girls could play and the boys could expand. It took us some time. It took about 3 rounds of Mighty Duck grants, but I think at the end of the time that we had the program in place, we built 80 new sheets of ice. That's a lot. And it's one of the greatest success stories that I've ever been involved in the Minnesota legislature.
With the Mighty Ducks Bill in place and animosity subsiding, girls high school hockey continued to flourish, growing from 24 teams to 35 in just one season. On February 24, 1995, thousands of fans flooded into Aldridge Arena to witness the first girls' state tournament in the country.
It was packed. You couldn't find a seat. If you didn't get there early, you just weren't able to watch the game, and it was phenomenal how many people showed up for that game.
It was a 4-team state tournament at Aldridge Arena, and that was electrifying.
It was so loud every time someone scores a goal. The walls would shake.
Apple Valley defeated South St. Paul 2-1 for the first state title in front of a sold-out crowd.
It was something that you stood back as a journalist and went like, I remember this. I remember how thrilled Apple Valley was.
The appetite for girls hockey in Minnesota was growing, and fans were hungry for the first superstar to arrive on the scene. In 1996, along came a small defenseman from Roseville named Winnie Bro.
Roseville hockey was awesome, and Winnie Bro was right at the center of it. She really was that first player that really gave the game a boost back then in the mid-90s for sure.
Winnie Bro was a tremendous playmaker, but I think Winnie Bro's greatest gift was probably her cerebral. Her brain thought at another level.
My mom taught us how to skate at 18 months old, so pretty much when we started kind of walking around, we instantly had skates on our feet. I was playing mite hockey with all the boys and Played Roseville youth hockey from mites to squirts to A peewees to A bantams. Then went on to play high school hockey, played 2 years of JV with the boys at Roseville High School. When I grew up playing with the boys, obviously, like, they didn't want girls playing hockey. I mean, coaches were saying kill her, take her out, you know, run her. I pretty much heard it all. And when I look back, it wasn't the best kids that ever were trying to hit me or run me. It was the guys that maybe were of my ability or not as good.
We never worried about Winnie. She was such a good skater. Small, but really a good skater and pretty elusive.
When they'd hit me as hard as they possibly could and I'd get up, that was probably more self-gratifying. Because I'm like, I'm out here and you could try to stop me, but you're not going to be able to. And then going into my senior year, they weren't going to have girls play on the varsity team. So my dad had seen that the high school league had gotten girls hockey the year before. So he went to the school board, and I got a bunch of my girlfriends who played soccer and golf or whatever sport I played, and said, hey, do you want to come up for the hockey team?
Skates in, slap shot, and a goal.
Our players were all pretty good skaters. I mean, we had 10 skaters that were already developed. They knew how to play hockey, and they knew what was going on.
But here comes Winnie Bro, the leading scorer in the state of Minnesota. She gets by the defense all alone. Shot and a goal. That Lori DiNuccio could do there is that would have deked out a lot of men's goalies, I would say.
Joined by her younger sister Chelsea and next-door neighbors Rhonda and Renee Curtin, Winnie Bro and the Roseville Raiders went undefeated in their first season, en route to a state championship.
I just remember going into the state championship against the Roseville Raiders and hearing about how their whole neighborhood was on the team. And, you know, Chelsea, as a 7th grader, I think at the time, was even there as well.
We had some top level players that were very good that had played for forever. And then we had players just kind of starting off, or figure skaters turned hockey players. It was a unique, variety of people, but we didn't really think about it. We just played hockey because we loved it.
It was one of those things where my dad said that, you're doing this not just for yourself, you're doing it for the future of girls high school hockey in the state, which kind of resonated like, wow, that's big picture thinking.
The lady in question is Winnie Bro, is the Miss Hockey, has won everything that you could possibly think of in girls hockey this year, all state, all metro, all conference, all this. And if you doubt me, I'm just going to show you the sleeves of her jacket here. Look at this. It's got academics, all conference, MVP, all conference. These are all bars for the number of letters, the hockey sticks, all state, and everything else. And I know her brother Vic never had all those awards. I coached her brother Vic up at St. Cloud one year.
Winnie was awarded the first Miss Hockey Award, setting the stage for a lineage of talented girls to follow, including the next pair of superstars that transformed the game forever, Chrissy Wendell and Natalie Darwitz.
They were all over the papers. That's all you saw was Chrissy and Natalie, and if you ever watched them, even to this day, they're unbelievable.
Chrissy Wendell, goodness gracious, I would say she's probably the best player in the world I've ever seen.
If you ever had to play against a Natalie Darwitz, it was just a nightmare.
Chrissy and Natalie in their prime are probably the 2 best females to ever play the game, and I think it's also because in that time you had to fight to play too, so it wasn't just come out and play, it was you were having to prove yourself to the guys every single day.
Similar to Bro, Darwitz and Wendell both grew up playing boys hockey, where they began to earn a reputation throughout the state.
Coaches claim an Egan 6th grader could become the best girls hockey player ever in the state of Minnesota.
The great thing is my teammates, you wouldn't be able to tell that I was the only girl in there. I wasn't treated like a girl, I was treated like their teammate and their friend, and that was awesome.
She can do some of the stuff that most of the boys can't do, and she's on the boys' team, and we're just not used to that.
They had earned a lot of respect in the boys' game because of the guys that they played with that are still currently playing in the NHL.
Playing with her growing up, she was always faster than the boys. She shot harder than everyone, and the couple of the select teams I played with her, she was always our best player.
I was maybe one of the better players on my team, add in the factor that now I was a female and the only one out there, there was a little bit of extra and bigger target on my back. You know, they wanted to take runs at me and knock me off my skates and prove me wrong. And my dad just always, kept saying they can't hit you if they can't catch you.
As it turns out, not many players could catch Darwitz. The Egan forwards switched to girls hockey in 1997 and led the entire state in scoring as a 7th grader.
The numbers that she was putting up in high school were incredible. She was a complete package, even in 7th and 8th grade. Extremely fast, tenacious on the puck, incredible vision, somebody who could score but loved to dish the puck as well. She was really a Paul Kariya type of player back in those days.
There's a nostalgia around playing high school sports. And now to have that in my life as a 7th grader, it's fun. People coming out in the stands, the community, the bands coming out to the big games. I mean, that's a great part of our, Minnesota tradition and lives. And now I'm a 7th grader playing the game I love. Add in the extra flair of being the high school sport and having high schoolers show up at your games and people who, besides grandparents and your parents, come to games. That was pretty fun.
While Darwitz dominated the girls' game, Wendell was still playing with the boys. In 1994, she made history as the first girl to start at catcher in the Little League World Series, and that wasn't even her best sport.
Chrissy's probably the most natural, gifted goal scorer I have ever seen play hockey. Play hockey. Not man, not women, play hockey.
I mean, she shot like a boy, a hard shot, strong, physical. She was just a hockey player. She was a hockey player.
I remember I saw Chrissy for the first time. I think she was a Bantam playing with the boys in a game, and I just got a grin from ear to ear. Number one, because she was the best player on the ice, and number two, now I had something relatable.
I didn't think of myself as it being a girl playing hockey. I think for me, it was just hockey. I wanted to play, I loved playing, I wanted to do everything my brother did. I started right away when I was 5, playing baseball, playing hockey, throwing the football around. All my buddies from school were the same guys that I played with, playing sports teams. So I think for me, it was not really the girl, it was just Chrissy.
After getting hurt playing varsity boys hockey as a sophomore, Wendell switched to girls hockey her junior year in 1999. A move that required some adjustment for the future superstar.
No power play. There was definitely no power play. We were working on stopping and starting and turning and not running into each other and getting through warm-ups without people running into each other. I just remember some kids literally couldn't skate. And we didn't have, some of the high schools at this point had a bigger team. They had more kids. We literally, I don't think we dressed more than 13 kids for the whole game. We think we had maybe 3 or 4 D that dressed. So, I mean, you played most of the game, and people thought, oh, you just play the whole game because you want to win. We just didn't have that many players.
Despite low numbers, Wendell scored 109 goals that year, becoming the first player, male or female, to break the 100-goal marker in state history. In 1999, her Park Center Pirates were upset in the state quarterfinals by emerging powerhouse South St. Paul.
First loss for a tough Park Center team all year.
But the following season presented one of the most anticipated matchups of all time.
In 2000, the first game out of the chutes features Egan and features Park Center. So it's Darwitz versus Wendell.
Park Center was coming to play the Wildcats in Egan there just for a regular season game.
Chrissy never lost in high school except that one game in the state tournament. They then opened up the next season against each other.
I remember, a couple of days before the game, the fire department saying, we're gonna cap the attendance off. Like, it was just, the word of mouth was huge about this game and what the media was doing.
Everything you envisioned for a high school game to be, that I grew up watching on the boys' side with packed stands, it was super cool to see that in a girls' game, because up until then, from my experience, I had never witnessed that.
We put on a show that night. Unfortunately, I think I was on the short end of the stick as far as win-loss column, but I think we'd both tell you what we did for the sport that night. It wasn't just grandparents and little girls coming to the rink. It was hockey fans wanting to watch two of the best hockey players in the state. And I think that was really special, and I think it really changed a lot of people's perceptions of what girls hockey was and what it could become. And it was just a really special moment I think we both had, that we knew we had something special in our game and we could help grow it.
Wendell led her undefeated Park Center Pirates to a state championship that season. Darwitz finished her high school career as the all-time leading scorer with 316 goals and 468 points. The two never met again as opponents, but they would soon join forces, this time as teammates. That's next time on Homegrown.